the bhav comes when we acquire sthayi bhav, and sthayi bhav means permanent mood. And when the love of Godhead becomes, love of Krishna becomes our permanent mood, and that's bhav. That's the stage of bhav. And before that, it's different stages of practice. And sometimes different acharyas, they classify it in more minutely. Like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives 14 stages instead of 9 stages in this ladder. So it's usually we say it's intermediate goals. Prabhupada makes a very interesting notion which is important for us in his purport in Bhagavad Gita to the verse 10:10, the famous verse Tesham satata yuktanam bhajati priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamopayanti te. He says that we have to understand very clearly that the goal is Krishna. That has to be very clear. The ultimate goal has to be very clear. And then when the ultimate goal is clear, then we have to see the whole path, how it will be progressively traversed. In other words, Prabhupada makes a very important point. He says that we will be able to achieve the ultimate goal if we know the whole path and all the intermediate goals. So, my first thing is, which I want to say, which may also sound a little heretical, a little unusual for us, is that even though from the very beginning we should be very clear that the goal is Krishna and we have to achieve Him, sometimes this ultimate goal, especially when we are in the very beginning stages of our devotional service, this ultimate goal is not very inspiring to us. It probably is not, it's not about you, but I've seen other people. It's too far. It's too idealistic, Krishna may be there, but I'm here. What am I supposed to do? So, what I want to say for understanding of how to apply the emphasis in different stages of our devotional service, we have to be very clear about the intermediate goals, which will be the most inspiring for us according to our stage of spiritual development. Ultimate goal is there. We should not try to minimize it or whatever, but see, you may, if you have 10 rupees in your pocket, 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees in your pocket. Inflation is there, so, or maybe 10,000 rupees in your pocket, and you want to buy the BMW, the latest, and this is your goal. Sometimes people, all these motivational speakers, they say you imagine your goal and you will achieve it. Hare Krishna, you may achieve it, you may not achieve it. What I want to say is that if you only have 1,000 rupees in your pocket, then BMW as a goal of all your endeavors may not be relevant at this stage of your life. This goal may be relevant on a little later stage when you have little more in your pocket. So therefore, in my humble opinion, we have to be very clear what are the goals which we should emphasize on the different stages of spiritual development. Like we are dealing with the counselees. And I've seen that if in the very beginning you emphasize too much, of course, I'm sure you're not doing this, but sometimes it's being done, unfortunately. Emphasize too much all these rasas with Krishna, then the people, what do? That too far away from this goal, but they want to achieve, and the counselor or whoever is teacher, the spiritual master, he is always saying, we have to come to Krishna, we have to come to the spiritual world, rasa is our goal. Then what people do? They just imagine that they're already there. It's called sahajiya. You're still very much down here, and somebody is always speaking, this is the goal, this is the goal, this is the goal. I've seen how people just becomes 100% sahajiyas. Yeah, oh Krishna, oh Radha, oh. You can see it's just pretense. Total pretense. Why? Because the goal is not, the emphasis is not correct. This is the goal, no doubt about it. But the emphasis, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, in the beginning stages of our material of our spiritual development, our goal should be what? Do you know what? He says purification of the heart. More or less, he says that the goal is freedom from anarthas. And this is the goal you can relate with very easily. And I want to give you a very interesting way of looking into this ladder, so that the emphasis can be more clearly defined. Are you not tired? Am I not? Shall I close my session? You are still with me, right? Okay. So the first to understand this, how to see, how to view this ladder of bhakti from the point of view which I suggest you to look at it. There may be different points of view. It's relative in a sense. So it's just one way of looking at this. I want to bring to you the notion or the understanding which is coming from Nyaya. It's basically Nyaya analysis. And in Nyaya they say, we all know this, but in Nyaya they use slightly different terms for this. And they say to achieve the goal, you have to know 4 things. Again, 4. So what are these 4 things which you have to know to achieve the goal? You have to know the goal, the destination, definitely. But, to achieve the goal, is it only enough to know the destination? You have to know the starting point, right? Like in GPS. GPS, it's a global positioning system. You want your goal. You enter your goal into the GPS system. What GPS does, the first thing? Yeah, your current status. GPS, you give the GPS, this is the goal I want to achieve. But then to chalk out the path to this goal, the GPS defines where you are now. Okay? So, and then GPS gives you the path, the most, the shortest path. And if it's a very smart GPS, I will tell you a little later on what else it should do. So these 3 things are clear. The first thing is your current status. The point, the starting point. And the starting point is called adhikar, right? Your qualification. So then the goal, and the process is, how do we call process? The process of achieving goal. We have standard name for this. How you call it? Sadhana. So adhikar, sadhana, prayojana. You can say sambandha abhideya prayojana. It's basically the same, but for our understanding, these terms are better. Adhikar, sadhana, and prayojana. There is the 4th thing which we should know. What is the fourth thing? To achieve the goal. You know the starting point, you know the path, the way to the goal, you know the ultimate goal. What else do we have to know? Obstacles on the path. Obstacles on the path. I remember once we were traveling in Germany, and the person who was driving the car, he was German, but he was from Russia, and he just recently went to Germany. So this GPS system which he was using, we very diligently follow all the instructions, and then we came to the point where the road was completely destroyed and there was no way, and we have to, and we were driving to the airport. We were short of time, and this GPS, we came to the point that the road is blocked. So we were trying to go some other way, and he doesn't know the other way, and GPS always shows him, you go this way, this way. We already know the obstacle is there, we cannot go, but the GPS goes, no, go this way, go this way. So we were almost late to the airport because we didn't know the obstacles. So the obstacles have to be very clearly defined, and that's basically the four things of the first Vibramas, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, what is the first four problems, four anarthas? Svatattva Vibrama, Paratattva Vibrama, Sadhana Sadhya Vibrama, and Vishaya Virodhi Vibrama. So the same kind of understanding is there. There's four things we have to be very clear about. So what I suggest now, let's take this ladder of bhakti with the intermediate goals. Let's say, you achieved some intermediate goal. For example, sadhu sangha or bhajana kriya or anartha nivriti. So this intermediate goal in regard to the ultimate goal becomes what? In this notion of adhikar, prayojana, sadhana, yeah, it becomes milestone, it becomes your new adhikar, right? Right? If you achieve certain point on this ladder, that becomes your starting point for the next, for the rest of the journey, right? This becomes your adhikar. So that's very important. Please remember this. Then when we achieve certain goal, this goal, which before was a goal for us, becomes our adhikar, our qualification for the rest of the journey, for the next stages of the journey. So the way I suggest to look into this ladder, when we clearly, minutely study and this design of this ladder, which Srila Rupa Goswami gives, he first says, Adau Shraddha. And this is my question to you. Is Shraddha a part of Bhakti? Is it? Yes. It's not. This is very clearly explained by Srila Jiva Goswami, that this is a starting point, but this is not yet Bhakti. It's just a preliminary qualification for Bhakti. So Srila Jiva Goswami is very clear that Shraddha is not a part of the process of Bhakti. It's adhikar for Bhakti. It's a general adhikar. Jata Shraddha Mat Kathado. Some time ago I gave a seminar here on this farm about adhikar, the specific, elements of this adhikar. So also Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, it's all acharyas, they agree with this, that Shraddha is the general adhikar, general preliminary stage. The bhakti, the practice of bhakti really starts from sadhu sangha. And you can only enter Sadhu Sangha if you have Shraddha. The Sadhu Sangha will have meaning. This stage will become meaningful only if you have faith. And therefore everyone explains that, of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that before Sadhu Sangha, before Shraddha, there is another Sadhu Sangha. There are two Sadhu Sanghas. First you meet a sadhu and you develop some respect toward him, and because of this you develop faith. And then the real Sadhu Sangha comes. So that's what I suggest to you, that we put aside Shraddha as a preliminary general adhikar, and we start our journey in the realm of bhakti towards the highest goal of bhakti from Sadhu Sangha, because it's really the starting point as far as the practice is concerned. And we all know there are a lot of problems in Sadhu Sangha as well. We all have to, people especially, it may be less in India because people are still more socially connected. I'd say a lot of problems in Sadhu Sangha in Russia, because people are so asocial. It's very difficult for them to enter into the society, to be a part of, integral part of the society. So it's a practice. It's already a practice. What I mean to say is that you have to apply some conscious endeavors to be a part of a Sangha and not to destroy or compromise your position in this Sangha. Therefore, listen, again, this is just my suggestion. You may disregard it completely, or if you find it interesting, please look at it more carefully. But I don't proclaim that this is the only way or whatever, but it gave me some insight of how the emphasis should be applied in our journey to bhakti. So I suggest that Shraddha is the general adhikar, the Sadhu Sangha is the first stage, and if we take the three first stages, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya and Anartha Nivriti, then when we enter into the stage of Sadhu Sangha, and when we are clearly kind of established or integrated in the society of devotees, because Sadhu Sangha is really the integration into the society of devotees. I'm a part of this society, I want to be a part of this society. You all know, somebody comes, he absorbed the society of devotees, the Sangha from outside, but then he develops some desire, he wants to enter, and then with some difficulties he enters. So I suggest that this is the first achievement on the path of bhakti, when somebody entered the society and wants to be the part. He's a counselor, he's really green, he's in the very beginning, but still he's enthusiastic and he wants to be part of it, and he's very careful not to offend anyone, to be accepted. He doesn't know much, but he knows the external ways of how to be a part of this Sangha. He dresses in a certain way, he puts tilak, and he's definitely not very convinced inside, but he wants to be a part of this society. So this is the first adhikar, and I suggest to look at these three stages as adhikar, sadhana, and goal, prayojana, intermediate goal. So in this scheme, Sadhu Sangha will be the first adhikar. We enter into adhikar. And then our sadhana is Bhajana Kriya. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he very clearly says that Bhajana Kriya is not chanting. Bhajana Kriya is not hearing. Bhajana Kriya is not worshipping the deity. Bhajana Kriya is chanting, hearing, worshipping the deity in the society of devotees. That's Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya, you're functioning as a part of the society of devotees, and in the society of devotees, you're chanting. In the society of devotees, you're hearing. in the society of devotees. You're worshipping the deity, taking part in the festivals. So that becomes your sadhana. You try to do it in a proper way, and then the goal is anartha nivritti, right? That's what I said. This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that in the beginning the goal of chanting is purification of the heart. In the beginning the goal of our chanting is not Krishna Prem. Cheta Darpana Marjanam. Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. So in the beginning it's just Cheta Darpana Marjanam. And I would suggest that in the beginning we have to, and this is exactly what Srila Prabhupada was stressing again and again and again. The purification of the heart is your goal. Practice of devotional service is your sadhana, together with other devotees. It's interesting because this is the quote which was given by Prahladananda Maharaj during our college seminar. Somebody complained to Srila Prabhupada about somebody else, about some temple president and somebody else, and said, he's so ambitious. And Prabhupada said, that's good. Ambitious. What I want to say, listen carefully, what I want to say is that in the beginning we cannot immediately artificially get rid of our ambitions. Let dovetail our ambitions to the practice of devotional service in the societies of devotees, and devotees very quickly very quickly help us to destroy our ambitions. These ambitions will not last long in the society of devotees. But, this is a very good starting point. What I want to say that in the beginning we stress purification of the heart, and as the process we stress you do whatever you're doing in the society of devotees. Even if you have desires, no problem. Just do it in the society of devotees. If you're ambitious, do it in the society of devotees. No problem. It will take place. Krishna will take care of it. But the main thing, you just remain this adhikar, preserve this adhikar, do your practice, bhajana kriya in the society of devotees. Then the goal of anartha nivritti will be achieved. There is another important stage. Then when we achieve the goal of anartha nivritti, and we'll speak a little bit about this, what it means a little later, just a couple of minutes later. But when we achieve the goal of anartha nivritti, then anartha nivritti becomes what? Adhikar for the next goal. And what is the next goal? No. Nishtha in this scheme will be sadhana. Right? If adhikar is anartha nivritti, then nishtha is sadhana, what we're supposed to do, and ruchi is the goal. So what I would say, in the beginning stages, we have two very clear intermediate goals. And that's exactly what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said. He said, in the beginning, anartha nivritti, and then artha pravritti. Anartha nivritti is the goal in the beginning, and then ruchi is the next stage, next prayojana, so to speak, taste. And then very important notion of the next sadhana. If the first sadhana, the first emphasis is we emphasize the need of the society of devotees, we emphasize the need to perform our devotional service in the society of devotees, not outside. Srila Prabhupada, he said that, he went so far, he said that whoever thinks that he can become Krishna conscious outside of the society of devotees, he has delirium. He's, something like this. He's insane, basically. He's insane. So in the beginning, we emphasize again and again and again, you do your bhajana kriya, but in the society of devotees, then anartha nivriti will take place. Then in the next stage, when you achieve preliminary, because anartha nivriti is actually not complete purification of anarthas. It's, you more or less, the anarthas are not so prominent anymore, they are not so pronounced anymore. Anartha nivriti is not a very high stage. It's a stage where anarthas are not very troubling in your heart. Kama is still there, but it's there, in case you need it. but it's not so much troubling you. So, but the next sadhana is very important. Nishtha. Nishtha is a sadhana. Nishtha not as something which we have achieved, but something which we practice. And what is nishtha as sadhana? It's basically Trinadapi Sunichina Tarorapi Sahishnu Namani Namanadana Kirtaniya Sadahari. That's the practice. And that's exactly what Guru Maharaj always stresses. Trinadapi Sunichina Tarorapi. I don't know if there is any lecture where he would not quote this verse. Probably in every lecture he would quote this verse. That's the practice. What I want to say, what I dare to say is that, first of all, in the very beginning, like Prabhupada, he was not so much stressing it. He was definitely stressing it, but not to the same extent. Why? The reason is simple, because in the beginning people may become a little discouraged. It's little above their head. In the beginning Prabhupada was encouraging, just do something for Krishna, whatever it is. Just, if you are ambitious, very good. Be ambitious, but be ambitious for Krishna. Just do this, do that, and therefore so much competition was there. Srila Prabhupada consciously knew that this is what we should stress. Do something for Krishna in the society of devotees, then the purification will take place. When the preliminary purification takes place, then, and if you start, I know how it is, if you start stressing very much, just hammering on again and again and again on this point of being humble in the very beginning, people may become discouraged. In the very beginning, they're still too much ambitious and they don't know how to relate to this. It's different in your case because you have this glorious society where everyone is humble, where everyone is trying to serve. So, people, they come and they try to adjust to the social norms. But it's not that they're humble in the beginning. I heard from some inside information, I sent some spy to Chowpatty temple, one brahmachari, and he was observing from inside what's going on, and he said, there are really advanced senior brahmacharis, they're really manifestation of this verse, Trinadapi Sunya, and there are some new bhaktas, and they're trying to be humble, but it's very superficial. You touch them a little bit and it's still there. It's just they're conforming to the norms of the society, more or less, to be adjusted to the society. Huh? Whatever. But what I want to say is that when we reach this preliminary stage of preliminary purification of the heart, when the anarthas are not so troubling, then the real emphasis is definitely Trinadapi Sunichina Tarorapi Sahishnu Namanina, and then the ruchi will become achievable goal. And ruchi, again, is a relevant goal. As much as anartha nivriti is very relevant in the beginning, ruchi becomes relevant on a little higher stage. I would say this, that in the beginning, I deal with many very, neophyte devotees, beginning devotees. you can very easily to explain to them the need for purification of the heart. Because they don't have so much experience of spiritual taste, it's a little difficult, You can say, but they don't relate so clearly. It's not that inspiring. Adhikar is basically, when I gave this example about BMW car, Adhikar in this example is what? Amount of rupees in your pocket, right? The goal becomes relevant only when you have certain adhikar. The goal is always higher than what you have. But it cannot be too higher. If it's too higher, it's, in one sense, disempowering. So, we can see that if we take this, kind of understanding or this view, we will see what is the progression. Then definitely the next very important emphasis is this humility and tolerance and as a practice. Not yet as the achieved stage, but as a practice in this stage to reach the stage of ruchi. And then when you achieve ruchi, then what becomes your ruchi becomes your adhikar. Your practice will become asakti, attachment, and your goal will become bhav. And then you go further. When you achieve this stage of ruchi, then asakti, attachment to certain sentiments of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, more particular sentiments. This is the stage where your hearing and chanting will become more specified, more selective. This is a higher stages of practice where you already have the taste, but you don't want this general taste. You're not satisfied with the general spiritual taste. You want much more pronounced and much more special taste in relationship with Krishna. Then your practice will become listen about certain kind of pastimes of Krishna, which will nourish your certain sentiments, and then the bhava or sthayi bhava will be achieved as a more higher practice. So if we take this understanding, then we will have, very clear intermediate stages. The first one is sadhusanga. And actually, Prabhupada said once a very beautiful statement. Somebody asked Prabhupada, what have we done to be engaged in devotional service? And probably he expected the answer, yes, you have performed all the Vedic rituals and yagyas and this and that. And Prabhupada said, you have done nothing. Your only adhikar is association with me. So what I want to say is that the first stage, very important, sadhusanga or adhikar, very important stage. Then the next stage is anartha nivritti as the goal, as a milestone. Sadhusanga is the first milestone. Next milestone is anartha nivritti. Intermediate stage, bhajana kriya, is the practice which we stress how to do it properly. And then the next milestone is ruchi and nishtha as a practice. Of course, you can look differently, but this is what I suggest to understand the dynamic of this devotional process of purification of the heart. So, thank you very much. I finished on time. Yes, Mahaprabhu.
Very wonderful application, which definition of sadhana, which is bhajan kriya. But I am confused on one point that when you said that sadhu sang, now most of the people are in just ashram, and sadhu sang, how you can explain that we can have sadhu sang? We are not having everywhere like Bhaktivedanta hospital where they can go there and have program there. Most of the people are outside, and in one family there may be 5-6 devotees also. But I don't think we are having sadhu sang in our families. How to solve that?
I humbly disagree. I think you have, the association with one's wife is a glorious sadhu sangha. It's sadhvi sangha. But I can give you something which will definitely give you a lot of solace and relief. Srila Narottam Das Thakur in Prema Bhakti Chandrika, he says that there are two kinds of satsanga. He says one satsang is general satsang, which we all know when we come into the society of devotees, we associate with devotees. That's definitely satsang. He says there are second kind of satsang, because even he, Narottam Das Thakur, 400 years back, he says satsang is rare. If Narottam Das Thakur, who was not a grihastha, who was a renounced person, who was living a lot of time in Vrindavan, and then when he came back to Keturi and things like this, even he was saying that satsanga of this kind is not always readily available. He says, but there is one type of satsang which is always readily available no matter where you are. He said, actually, the Holy Scriptures, Shastras, are also, reading of the Holy Scriptures is also satsang. So when you read Prabhupada's books, it's sadhu sangha, no doubt about it. So there are two kinds of sadhu sangha, and if you don't too much associate with your wife, you can read Prabhupada's books. Any other question, or we just finish at this point? Yes, Prabhupada.
Thank you for a very wonderful Maharaj. You mentioned in the subsequent stages that asakti is the sadhana and bhava is the prayojan. So can you just explain in asakti what is, like you said for the previous one you said Trinadapi Sunichena is the sadhana. So in this, what do you mean?
Yeah, I tried to explain what it means. In my humble opinion, there are, the sadhanas, they're changing. The ways how we perform our bhajana kriya are different. In the beginning, our bhajana kriya is of one sort. We are just trying to do everything right. We are trying to be meticulous. We are trying to concentrate on the holy name. We are trying to preach to other people, to perform kirtan, and we are conscious on doing everything right. In the next stage, when Nishta becomes our sadhana, then we are trying to do that. We already know the technique, so to speak, how to do it. But we are trying to do it in the correct mood. We are trying to do it in a mood of humility, tolerance, in a mood of respect towards others. We are working on these qualities. And that will bring us general ruchi for spiritual practice. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadambini explains that ruchi, he explains the stage of ruchi. There are two sub-stages in ruchi. You're very much, you have, in the beginning, you're attached to the form. You have very strong ruchi, taste to spiritual practice, but you're still attached to the form. You can only get pleasure if the kirtan is nicely performed. If a leader is nice, in the higher stages of ruchi, you don't care, if somebody cannot really, even nicely chant, you're still in ecstasy. If somebody like myself, chanting in a horrible way, then you're still happy, because the ruchi is more strong. But then when the ruchi becomes, especially this higher form of ruchi, becomes your qualification, your adhikar, if you already have very strong taste to spiritual practice and reading of the books and everything else, then your reading will become different. Your reading will become more, and I definitely do not recommend to do it prematurely. And that's the whole idea of this class, not to do it prematurely. But when the taste will become very strong, extremely strong and completely ecstatic, then you want to make your taste more refined. And in this stage, people develop, this was very often described by Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada described it sometimes, not very often, because our acharyas are quite conservative about this. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur definitely explained it in later chapters of Jaiva Dharma and Sri Chaitanya Shikshamritam. Then asakti as a sadhana basically means that you're not just hearing and chanting. You're hearing about special kind of pastimes of Krishna to which you have some affinity. You're chanting about these pastimes, you talk about them, or you perform some lila kirtanas. Of course, it's not within the practice of our society, but it used to be very much prominent in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, that people would perform special lila kirtanas. They still do it in Arisa, in many places, this lila kirtan or lila katha. So that's to cultivate your attachment. Attachment means you don't want to be attached to Krishna in a very remote and very general way. You want to be attached to Him in a very specific way. Your attachment becomes specialized, so to speak. But again, I didn't want to speak about this too much. But it's definitely different kind of practices. One is to do everything right. Second one, to do everything in the right mood, in the very right, with the right kind of attitude. You work on the attitude. First, you work on the technique, so to speak, on the general thing. When it becomes more refined, you do it with your mood becomes more refined, so to speak. Yes, Madam.
So Maharaj, this dealing with the anarthas is like a big, it's a great struggle. And somehow in my own personal development, I'm always defeated. And the anarthas always defeat me. So even though you said that we have to, it's a time, it's a process, it's an action. But now, at one point, I have sort of given up. I just can't deal with this. So I'm just praying to the deities that take care of our anarthas. Is that sufficient?
As I said, that the root cause of anarthas is this tattva vibram. The gross anarthas are very difficult to overcome, and there is some sort of inertia. But the main point is to deprive these anarthas of their nourishment. As Radha Gopinath Prabhu explained, that the nourishment is coming from the root to everything. And even if you cut the tree from the roots, for some time the tree is still there, the leaves are still green, the trunk is there, the life seems to be there. So in a similar way, the most important way of working with anarthas is to eradicate from this most subtle kind of anartha, understanding who I am and who is God, and what is the process. And that's exactly what Srila Prabhupada was doing. This is how he established the society. You are not this body, you are not this body, you are not this body. Hammering on this point. Because this is the cutting the anarthas at the root. If you have this very clearly established, your identity, so to speak, that what is my identity? I am spirit soul. I need Krishna. I'm not a part of this material world, even though by inertia still anarthas have some power over you, and they overpower you. It's still okay. It's not a problem. It will finish at one point, and it will become less and less and less. The main point is to stop nourishment of these anarthas from misconceptions. What happens with us, and this is one of the causes of persistence of the anarthas. What happens with us is that we engage in some practices which reinforce our false conceptions of who we are. Like we know, Jivara Swarupa Hoy, Krishna Nitya Das. I am eternal servant of Krishna. But when we behave in the real world, we have a position of leadership, and sometimes we do behave not as a servant but as a master, just by habit or by other things. And this behavior reinforces the false conceptions. And this conception of the servant is not becoming prominent. I told the story yesterday. It's a beautiful story. It's one of my favorite Prabhupada stories. There was a devotee who came to, I believe it was Chicago temple or maybe Los Angeles temple during Prabhupada's time. And he had very strong controlling tendencies. He was bossing around from the very beginning, even though he was a new bhakta. So very soon he was promoted as a temple commander to dovetail his propensities. And he was very happy, and he thought, I'm really progressing fast in my devotional service. So he was temple commander, and he was controlling even more people, this and that and this and that. And, he was a terror for the whole temple, more or less. Then there came the time when he was supposed to get initiation from Prabhupada. And it's a usual scene. So many people are waiting for their turn to come. And they come, they pay obeisances to their spiritual master, they give the vows, they say that I will chant 16 rounds, they follow four regulative principles. And then Prabhupada gives you the beads and gives the name. So his turn comes, he comes to Srila Prabhupada and he pays his Dandavat obeisances. You can imagine, heavy guy with a to show how obedient he is, And Prabhupada, at this point, he said, I'm still there in Dandavat. I'm chanting my mantra, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, and I hear Prabhupada says, your name is such and such Das, not master, Das, 1,000 times Das. Did you understand this? So, Prabhupada, he took the opportune moment. He didn't wait when he will get up. While he's still there in a very humble position of Dandavat, Prabhupada says, your Das. And then he didn't say Das, your 1,000 times Das, your Das. And he himself says this. He already got his name Das. And he didn't remember the first part of the name, it's not there. He didn't get his beads, but he's still there on the ground. He hears this and he says, there was only one thought in my mind at this moment of time. What am I supposed to do now with this? He was totally bewildered. He didn't know what to do. So, basically, what I want to say is that the most important thing for the anarthas to get rid of the anarthas is very clear understanding of who we are, that we are das, eternal das, 1,000 times das. And we never become anyone else. We will always become. There will be no, like sometimes people say, yeah, in the beginning I am Das, then I am Prabhu, and then I am Mahaprabhu, then Mahaprabhu. It's not in relationship to you. You are Mahaprabhu Das. But I've seen this so-called spiritual advancement. There was one senior devotee in Russia. He would always, when he would speak on the phone, he would say, "This is such and such Prabhu speaking. Can I speak with such and such Das?" He was very consistent in this. So what I want to say is that we may theoretically understand I'm Das, but sometimes our practice reinforces this Vibram. And therefore this position of a counselor is a blessing, definitely, but it can be dangerous because people I've seen, unfortunately, how people manifest unwanted behavior and their anarthas grow. Therefore it's very important what you are doing here, to come together and to speak what is the proper way of performing these duties. I'm very grateful. And please forgive me if I said something wrong or whatever. And thank you very much. Okay. And please know that I'm always your servant. And if you need anything from me, please engage me in your service. I will be very happy. Because I'm always taking your service. And I'm getting implicated more and more into the depth. So when Gauranga Prabhu this morning asked me, I had some other plans, to be honest with you, but immediately I agreed because I thought, if this is what you want from me, I'm ready to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Actually, as I was hearing, I was thinking probably for every issue we have to have one special speaker. And that will not be announced only on that day. And we can probably give them these topics.